Good evening, everyone. So, due to the time constraint, what I have thought today is I'm going to focus more on learning systems for energy management, but the part of why you need learning systems for energy management and what do they do rather than how part of it. Because I'm pretty sure that during your journey of learning AI, you would figure out all the how part of it. So in next 20 minutes or so, I'm planning to give you introduction on some of the problems which are mainly related to energy management in different variety of systems that we see in our day-to-day use, and how and why and what learning systems do over there. So before I jump into the energy management systems, I just want to give you a very quick flavor of how learning systems work in IoT kind of a setup. Because in IoT, you are getting a amount of data coming from different set of sensors, and those sensors are giving you a collective view of your surroundings, your environment, or the context. So in this kind of a setting, not necessarily that a single learning system deployed in cloud would give you the desired effect, but there could be a combination of hierarchical learning systems, which means that systems deployed at the edge level to the cloud level, and the combination of those would give you the optimal results. So while you are looking at the learning systems, I want you to have a view of not only a single system running and taking your data and providing the output, but there might be a kind of a graph or a flow where some of the nodes are processing the base information and transferring that information to the next level of learning systems. So this kind of architecture is very well derived from brain's architecture, where the brain is not doing all the functions of all the levels at the same place. But if we look at the brain's functioning, mainly reptile brain is looking at the very required critical levels of the functioning, like survival instincts, breathing, heart rate, and balance, etc. Whereas the limbic system is doing a more sophisticated work, which is like combining the information, forming the feelings or memory formation, identifying patterns, etc. And the last level is neocortex, which is mainly looking into further complex level of learning in terms of the reasoning, forward thinking, planning, and other things. So similarly, when you are looking at your learning systems, there could be a kind of hierarchical system which is taking one level of data. So sensors and actuators are providing you data. So there could be edge devices which are doing and processing the information at one level, and they are providing data to your either the edge server and then to the cloud server, doing more and more complex things. And similarly, there would be a two-way flow. So you would pass the information of derived, let's say, long-term planning to the edge level nodes, and they would make the optimization at the local level. So basically, your neocortex, or you can imagine it as a time series or image analysis, which is doing various different functions of your learning systems into the actual scenario. So now getting back to the learning systems for energy management. So the first work that I'm going to talk about is mainly the work which I had done while I was at IBM Research. And this is for learning systems to avoid load shedding. So especially when we are looking at developing countries like India or Africa, we do have the first fundamental problem of there is no internet connectivity available to the devices. So while we are talking about IoT, there are a lot of places where you don't get internet connectivity, you don't get actual connected power, and how we can solve this problem was the main thing that we were looking into. So when we are looking into the power shortage problem, the problem looks a bit like this. So the main fundamental challenge here is your power demand is not constant. So what you're looking at in the left side graph is the days of the year on the x-axis, and you are seeing the hours on the y-axis. So basically, depending upon the seasonality, depending upon the time of day, your demand is varying. So the one challenge that utilities face across the world is how do you cater to the demand at the peak time. So it could be the winter hours or the evening hours when we need to supply that same amount of energy to all the households. So definitely one solution is that you increase the power demand so that you can always cater to your peak demand no matter whatsoever. But most of the times that's not the solution because it requires the additional capex to either build the hydropower plants or renewable energy resources. So it has a capex involved, and this peak demand is very short living. So it's not like the peak demand is there for half of your day. It may be for 1 hour, half hour, or 2 hours of the day. So it's very short lived kind of a peak demand that you need to cater to. So the main challenge is if we look at the way load is supplied, there are different types of generators. So it could be a hydro or the diesel generators. And as we go from the base load to the peak load, the price at which that 1 unit of energy comes, that goes on increasing, which means that the fundamentally what we need to do is we need to somehow displace the demand which is coming at the peak time from peak time to some other time. So that is called centralized demand response. And what we are seeing here is on the right hand side you would see that there is a time of day. So there are different hours and there are some peaks during some hours of the day. So now if the utility is not able to cater to the peak demand, ideally what should happen is some of the loads which are coming at the peak time need to go to some other times. So there has to be the displacement of load during the peak so that everyone would get the required amount of power at the same time. Now when we look at the industrial and residential loads, there is lot of demand which is coming from not the immediate kind of requirement. So now we are, let's say, looking at lights or fans, we would say that that is the essential kind of a load which you require to consume at the same amount of time. But there are a lot of loads which we can consider like, let's say, water heaters, which have the insulation in their water heaters to keep the water heated for 3 hours. So that's not kind of a critical load which has to come at the peak time. It can actually go to some other time. Or if we look at the EV, electrical vehicle charging, that need not happen at the same time. Or we can take an example of the UPS that we use at most of the houses. So definitely that's another kind of a non-critical load which is a deferrable load which can be shifted to off-peak times. So what is being done in most part of the world, especially there are experiments which are done in US and Europe. The utilities are kind of creating a centralized demand response where the energy utility would send a signal to a household or a smart meter or a smart appliance saying that this is the peak time and please displace your demand from peak time to off-peak time. Now when we look at a similar kind of approach for developing countries, as I said, the first fundamental challenge is we do not have the communication infrastructure. So we cannot send the signal to the household meters or we cannot send the signals to the appliances. The second challenge is that we do not have the central communication infrastructure as well as our appliances are not smart to receive those kind of signals. So in order to implement such kind of demand response, we have to implement the entire communication infrastructure as well as change the appliances which are currently in existence, which is non-practical. So considering these constraints, what we came up with is a decentralized demand response. So this is a plug called N-plug. What it does is it basically sits between your wall socket and an appliance. So you can consider it as a power strip or some form of the connector. And this particular edge device does have the capability of holding the data required as well as doing the learning system. So in this particular case, given the constraint, the entire learning system is a single edge node which is collecting the data, saving the data, building the models as well as taking the control actions. So what it does is basically it sits between your wall socket and appliance and reads certain signals which are available without adding any additional sensor or the communication to your appliance and identifies when is the peak and off-peak time of the day. So the first challenge that we had to solve was, can we sense the peak demand on the grid or at your local area while sitting locally at your home, or let's say sitting locally at your industry. So we started looking at some of the signals, we started collecting data, and the first thing that everyone suggested came from the literature was we should look at the frequency signal. So we started computing the frequency at the house, and ideally what we were expecting that whenever there is a peak time, we should see a dip in the frequency. So generally we have 50 Hertz frequency, but it should go down during the peak times. when we started data collection and looking at the data, we realized that we are not seeing that kind of a pattern. Rather, if you see the right-hand side plot, 6 a.m. in the morning, you rather see a jump in the frequency rather than seeing a dip when we generally expect the morning peak hours. So then we started looking at few other signals that would give us some information about when could be the peak and off-peak time. And it's the common sense we have seen a lot of times at our houses that whenever there is the evening, there is a lot of load and peak demand, our bulbs or lights start dimming or flickering because there is a voltage dip. So we started looking into the voltage signal. And now this is a voltage signal which is coming from a household, my own home in Bangalore. And the different colors show the different days of the week. So we collected large amount of data from different places and we realized that voltage is giving rather a very good signal. So whenever there is a, during early morning hours, you would see that the nominal voltage which is 230, it goes up to 245 or 250, while as during evening peak hours, it goes to 220 or 215. So now when we started collecting the data, this gives a handle that now we can do pattern identification for the peak and off-peak times based on the amount of voltage information that we are sensing. Obviously, the same thresholds and range do not work at different places because if you go to the rural places, the fluctuations are much higher. So, for example, if you go to Kerala or some other rural places, you would see that the voltage dips to 180 kind of a thing. Whereas we did the same experiments in US where the grids are quite stable. So the range of fluctuations that you would see is small, but you would still see a fluctuation. So it could be either 2 or 3 volts, but you would still identify the patterns of peak and off-peak times. So our first problem was solved, that we could identify locally that when is the peak and off-peak time. So now the next problem we had was instead of getting a centralized signal, we should be able to identify, instead of getting a centralized signal, can we give the control signal to the devices completely in a distributed manner. So ideally we can do that. So let's say now we are able to identify that there is a peak time during morning 6 to 7. Every N plug would, let's say, identify that there is a peak time and decide to switch off their non-critical loads, like let's say water heaters or electrical vehicle charging or something of that sort. But if we just use those kind of rule-based algorithms, what would happen is instead of having the peak at 6 o'clock, it would create a peak at another time whenever your peak time is over. So you are not really solving the problem, but you are just shifting the problem in time. So obviously that kind of approach would not work. So we started looking at some of the scheduling algorithms for this matter, that how distributed scheduling works. And then we looked at computer networks, and all of you would have studied CSMA kind of algorithms which do back off whenever there is a packet transmission is not happening, right? So we started looking in similar kind of algorithms. I would not go in all the details of the algorithms here, but the kind of optimization problems algorithms we derived here were mainly based on CSMA techniques, but there were some differences. So for example, in case of CSMA, whenever the back off is happening, there is no time limit as such. So there is no deadline for the time in which the packet has to be sent. But whereas in our problem, whenever we are working on any energy management system, the main fundamental thing is that the user's convenience should not be hampered at any cost. So which means that, let's say if I'm a user who has put this on the water heater, and I want the water to be heated at 6 a.m. in the morning every day because I need to get ready and get started. No matter what, whenever the peak time is coming or not, my water should be ready at 6 a.m. So user should not be inconvenienced. So which means that, or for example, if you are taking a EV charging, there is a deadline when you want to start the trip. So definitely there is no infinite kind of a horizon here to make the decision, but it has the deadlines and you need to cater to the deadlines. So we had to actually work on the algorithms that would cater to the deadlines and do the backups. So we call it as grid sense multiple access algorithms. And as a result, I will directly go to the evaluation results. So now let's say this is a result for the simulation, but we did the pilots as well. So what we are considering here is on the left hand side, it's the normal situation where there are, let's say, various different types of essential as well as non-essential loads are coming on the grid and creating two peaks as we are seeing here. Now let's say we are applying 100 N plugs to each of those. So we are considering examples like inverters, water heaters, washing machines, water pumps. They have different power requirements and different schedules for different people. So now when we are applying the grid sense multiple access kind of algorithms, which are completely sensing locally and completely making distributed decisions, what we are seeing as a result is on the right hand side. So because now, let's say what it does is, if I'm taking a water heater example, now instead of saying that I want the water to be heated at 6 o'clock, I know that my water heater has a capability of keeping the water heated for 3 hours, let's say, and I want to run it for 15 minutes. So what we specify is I want the water to be ready at 6 o'clock. I'm okay if it runs any time between 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. for 15 minutes. So now all the peak which was there is very nicely distributed on the right hand side. And so what we are seeing in some sense is this is the implicit load shedding. So what utility does when it cuts off the loads or for individual transformer or different areas in the city is they are actually doing the similar kind of setup. We are trying to reduce the demand on the grid at the peak time, but it's kind of a forced and explicit measure, whereas what we are doing here is an implicit measure and happening in much distributed way. So this is one example of learning systems, how learning systems do help in doing the energy management. And if we are capable of, let's say, deploying these kind of N plugs around different non-essential loads, we can handle our load shedding and power shortage problem to a great extent. So this is the kind of prototype looks like. I'll go to the next set of problems. So now I'm quickly going to touch upon another type of problems which is being evaluated to a great extent these days. And this is the reinforcement learning problem for different types of storage system. I'm calling it as plug-in electric vehicles charging problem here, but it's typically applicable to different types of storage systems. So how does plug-in hybrid electric vehicle works, right? So the main functionality change over here from the conventional cars is that it has two types of energy sources. So one is the petroleum and the electricity, and it has a and or capability, which means that at any given point of time, depending upon your power demand, you can either use it from petroleum or you can use it from electricity, batteries electricity, or you can combine those to give you appropriate power demand. So what is the power management problem in PHEV, right? So first of all, we do, whenever we start a trip, most of the times we do not know the road condition or the traffic condition, so the amount of time that it's going to take. So you do not know the power demand that would be there during your entire trip. So you cannot plan in advance of the amount of battery as well as the gas it would require. You can do the prediction to some extent, but there is a lot of noise involved in the system. And the system has to decide at every time instance how much power to draw from the internal combustion engine versus how much power to draw from the battery. And that has to happen in real time. And most of the times, you would have the information of either charging stations in between where you can charge and how much time it's going to take that charge, or sometimes you would not have that information as well. So the optimization problem over here is while you are doing a trip, you want to minimize your fuel usage, because that's why you are using your PHEV. You want to use the energy as much as from your battery pack, and you want to use your gas only whenever it's required or essential. So that's the main optimization problem that we are looking at. And there are a lot of different approaches which are studied in this energy management system for PHEVs. So the initial approaches were rule-based, which are like either deterministic or fuzzy. So based on certain rules and thresholds, they would decide at every time instance how to react. So these algorithms are definitely fast, but they are not optimal. So they most of the times they end up consuming a lot of fuel because they are not able to reach to the optimal settings. The The second set of algorithms over here are optimization based algorithms. So which means that you either have some prediction about the amount of time it's going to take, the road conditions, the traffic conditions, etc. You do either offline or the prediction based planning. So you are basically doing you are solving an optimization problem and determining how much amount of power demand and how the power demand need to be scheduled from the given EVs. And now there is this is a very recent approaches that people have started looking into is the learning based system for this kind of approach. So instead of having the rule based approach or optimization based approach, because again in optimization you need to have all the information a priori, which is not the case in most of the cases, and again the problems are large to solve, so you cannot get the real time solutions. So to address these two problems, people have started looking into learning based systems and mainly reinforcement learning kind of problems over here. So very quickly, most of you would know what is reinforcement learning, but for those who are not aware of it, so reinforcement learning is a kind of machine learning problems where it's learning to maximize long-term reward. So basically you are looking at the end goal and not the short-term rewards by interacting with your environment. So most of the times you would have heard about reinforcement learning in games or all the kind of DeepMind or Atari games or other things. Reinforcement learning is very effectively being used because you know the environment, you know the space, you know the rules of the game, and then you are changing your state based on the opponent's state. So there is reinforcement learning majorly used in a lot of games today. But mainly this is reinforcement learning is suitable for complex problems. So the problems which are hard to solve for human beings and also the problems which require near real-time solutions. So you would see that a lot of reinforcement learning kind of problems are being used in robotics control optimization or making the decisions of navigation and other things. So the similar kind of approach is being used now for PHEVs. So how the reinforcement learning is being used in PHEVs is you have an agent who takes an action or who determines what to do depending upon your environment state. Your environment state is determined by your current as well as some past actions. So you are looking at your vehicle speed, road grade, batteries charge, and based on that you determine what is a given power demand at any given point of time, and if you have any charging information. Based on that, the agent decides to take an action. So the action is how much power to draw from IC versus how much power to draw from battery. Based on this action, your state would change. So based on this action, the available power demand, available batteries charge, as well as your gas conditions would change. And eventually, if you are able to complete your trip within the lowest amount of fuel, you would get maximum reward. So now we are looking at maximizing the reward, which are long term, which is at the end of the trip we would get to know that whether we are effectively able to solve or not. So reinforcement learning problems suit very well in these kind of conditions, and there is quite interesting work which is being done on reinforcement learning for these kind of systems. Another case of reinforcement learning we are using in energy management problem is in different form of storage systems. So what's happening over here is it's kind of a complex prosumer kind of a network where, let's say in my household I have the rooftop solar, so I have the local generation, I have the batteries installed at my house, so I can charge or discharge the batteries, and as well as my house has some demand. Now in most of the electricity markets, some places in India, but mostly in Australia and Europe, there is a variable pricing. So at every time of day, there is a different unit rate which is applied to the energy demand. So the problem here is we want to minimize the bill for the consumer by doing the charging and discharging of the batteries. So the main problem that we are trying to solve by doing RL is when to charge and discharge the batteries so that the overall consumption, overall bill for the consumer is reduced. And the problem is challenging here because there is a generation which is depending upon weather conditions, so you cannot plan and predict in advance, and there is a variable demand based on users' preferences as well. So I think that's all. I wanted to give some problems flavor. And thank you for your attention.